Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Avatar Retrospective. But we're not here to talk about any more Last Airbender, no movie adaptations, no James Cameron films. We're here to finally talk about The Legend of Korra. I'm your host, Diego Crespo. With me today is my co-host, Matt Garingo.
That's me. I'm back, folks. Even though for people out there in podcast land, there's probably been no break.
No, there's going to be a little break for the holidays. I've been uploading pretty regularly. I'm glad to see a consistent audience everywhere except YouTube. So thank you everyone who's been tuning out. Don't know what's happened. I'm actually very frustrated because I think this is the best run of episodes, the most consistent run of all the podcasts I've been doing on the YouTube. And it's just hit a brick wall. So thank you to SoundCloud, Spotify, and iTunes, everyone.
Hey, what are you going to do, folks?
Yeah.
We're probably getting buried by that person who made that 3-hour video, Everything Wrong with The Legend of Korra.
No, I need a clickbait one because I bet these episodes are going to be just as quality, and by that I mean running longer than the actual episodes we're here to talk about.
Just put Tenzin canceled, and then make that the thumbnail. And then
why you're a loser nerd virgin who doesn't like Legend of Korra?
Yeah, sure.
There you go.
That'll win them over.
Yep.
But like I was saying, for the people out there, I guess there's a little bit of a holiday break. Don't know how long that is, but for us it has been a few months since we picked up this thread. We did the Last Airbender movie, I believe, back at the beginning of October. Is that accurate?
October or the end of September?
We had to do it because it was leaving Netflix.
Yeah. Oh, so probably the end of September then.
And
because
we were
of that.
like, we can't pay. Neither of us want to pay for this, so we have to. And then we did our Texas Chainsaw thing like right before Halloween. And so this is the first time we've recorded since the election has happened. And
yeah, there was just like this dark cloud in the distance, getting closer and closer.
Yeah, that was a rough week. That was
no, I went to some dark places in preparation for that. Like, you know, like nothing to be concerned about, but just, you know, it's a lot to weigh on you.
I got
mentally and emotionally.
Yeah, I had a rough the night of election because it swung red in like the 3 states that like were important like way early, and everyone's like, no more election talk. But I like literally that night, like I was like waking up like I had a panic attack and shit like that night. And then the next day I was like, all right, I turned my phone off and put it in a drawer. And then I just went downstairs and just like found every long movie I owned and just started watching them. And I just kind of powered through. And then by the time I had come out of that, the blue shift had happened. So, and by then it was like I was looking like Biden was getting higher numbers than he was estimated to, and then I was like, all right, it's pretty much over. But then like it, you know, because of fucking counting, y'all talk shit about Philly. Not anymore.
Gritty saved the election.
Yeah, he totally did. He fucking I was gonna say ate the ballots, but I don't wanna give any credit to the people who think there was actually any rigging going on. Yeah, it's been. But I bring it up mainly because it's like it feels like we're already in another world between just like when we recorded in July to now. Like, I feel like I've already, like, lost my mind, like, 6 more times. Also, we're in the middle of, like, COVID fucking surging. So,
I know.
Which isn't great. But the other thing is that this weird thing happened where when Trump lost, you know, not only did, like, the weight of that fucking idiot, like, suddenly lift off my mind, like, but the other thing is that I realized that what it really did was it didn't bring. I don't think we've brought a closure to the Trump era just yet. But
yeah, no.
It does feel like we finally closed the book completely on the Obama era, if that makes sense. No matter how you slice Trump winning, it was entirely a backlash to Obama. I mean, that's mainly what that election was, you know? To all the just insane shit that happened in his era. And people completely losing faith in the Democrats in that era. No, I can't remember feeling more like hopeless than when like those last few years of Obama where he was like doing awful shit like regularly, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And like that was when like that's, you know, Ferguson started. And I think to me, because Trump was so tied into the Obama era, that his election is like a footnote to, I mean, his presidency is like the epilogue to Obama's presidency, if that makes sense. And the other thing that like gave me that kind of cultural shock is like how Hamilton came out on Disney Plus recently. And you had a lot of people watching it for the first time. And I'll defend Hamilton because I like musicals, and I defend Hamilton in the same way I defend the John Adams miniseries.
Oh no,
Which is
Matt.
like, yeah, I like historic shit even when it's complete bullshit. Like I just get a kick out of that. Like those are my guilty pleasures. But I also don't believe it's representative of reality in any way. Like I don't believe either depict anything worthwhile, but it's interesting to see how that shift happened and how Hamilton is viewed from when it premiered to it finally going on Disney Plus in the last year of Trump, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like this whole, like, there's this weird attitude I think a lot of liberals had in, like, the Obama years where we felt like we crossed a finish line.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Like, even someone who was, like, very critical of Obama, like myself, kind of, like, let that attitude kind of seep into my brain, and now we've learned that that is very much not true. And I bring all this up because I think Legend of Korra is a very Obama-era show. I think it is very reflective of that era. Now, does that mean it's good or bad? I feel like we'll find that out as we're revisiting it. But I feel like it feels like if this show premiered just slightly later, it wouldn't work. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, this could only premiere in the year Obama wins re-election. It can't come at, like, the last few years of Obama or the first few years of Trump. You can't do, like, you just can't do this show.
And we will see how that continues while we're covering later seasons of the show as well. But I'm actually very glad you brought up politics at the forefront of the retrospective for once. Because, yeah, this season, I think, oddly enough, gets the most praise. And I say oddly enough because I agree with everything you're saying. And I think oftentimes, in ways the series never had before, it's a little more confused thematically and politically.
All right.
And I think it's kind of messy. And so to get into the actual series right now, if I can, I need to explain that within the first 5 minutes, I was already kind of choking up with the nostalgia and excitement of being back in this world anyways.
Well, I have to say something, which is that I remember this season as being really rough. That it was one of those where, like, the first season's rough, but, like, it starts finding its footing later. So I kind of went into it kind of in the way when I watched The Dark Knight, and, like, I had, like, all my defenses up. Like, I'm not going to let myself enjoy this movie this time. I'm going to be really critical of it. Here's the thing. Alright, I only rewatched the first 5 episodes, because I feel like if I watch ahead, for 6 episodes, I should say, which is what we're covering, I only watched the first 6, because I feel like if I watch ahead, I'm just going to start bringing up stuff from that too early. Like, I didn't want to, like, tamper with, you know, how I talked about these episodes. I think these 6 episodes were really solid in a way I didn't respect when they initially aired, or even when I revisited them a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I was caught off guard by that. I think this actually started out on a much better foot than I gave it credit for.
there's a couple things that give this season its strength, because I think I'll be the more critical one of this series, actually. And if you follow me on Twitter, that does not always seem to be the case. But it's because I love the show and because so much of it does end up working from my recollection of it. And I think the sheer wonder and frustration is so like embedded into the early era of the show, where it's not just how does Avatar Korra like ascend as her own like avatar identity, but also how does the show like come to grips with its new reality? Like how does it fit into all of this? Can the show fit into like can this like mythology continue, you know? Does that make sense? Am I talking out of my butt
no,
here?
I get where you're coming from. It's to me, it's that it's a show about what if you're the Avatar in a world that's moved on from the Avatar, which is exactly what's happened.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's moved away from a very religious world to a much more secular world, and that's very interesting. Like, how do you find your place in it? And I think that leads to it tackling a lot of interesting ideas. I also think it does what I think a lot more series should do, especially when they make like a follow-up, where you set up all these rules for a fantasy world, and then you go like, all right, now you have to actually live in it. Mm-hmm. And then you really challenge those ideas. Because there's a lot of stuff that like you just bring up because, you know, first Avatar Last Airbender is just like a fun kid fantasy adventure film show. And it's going to introduce ideas that don't hold up under a ton of scrutiny, but they're not really supposed to, you know? Because that's just it's just an adventure show. I'm not saying that Avatar Last Airbender is just an adventure show, but it is much more explicitly just for that children audience. Whereas this show, it seemed to grow up a little bit. While still being like a family-friendly show, this definitely does feel like it's matured in a way that maybe other series don't always.
The Last Airbender feels like a kid's fantasy adventure show. I think this show feels like something straight out of Toonami.
Yeah.
Like, down to, like, the aesthetics. Like, it's a very steampunk show, you know? Like, that's actually some of the criticism I've seen a lot of, that, like, oh, it lost touch with, like, the nature-infused elements of the original series. And it's like, wow, that might be kind of, like...
Might be
that might be intentional.
Of the whole
I don't...
thing.
Yeah, like, fucking... whatever. We're going to get to bad fan complaints eventually, but I do want to start praising it now because I think I came off a little strong. But like, yeah, the stuff revolving around Avatar Korra and her character struggles, like she's the complete inverse of Aang. You know, Aang didn't want to be the Avatar, and from the moment we meet Korra, she's like, her first line is literally, "I'm the Avatar, and you've got to deal with it."
Yeah.
It's
like a mission statement in like the first fucking minute of the show.
And, you know, it's about her carving out her own identity as the Avatar, and who is she apart from the Avatar.
And also,
that's an element we'll see continue throughout the series.
It very explicitly sets her up as the inverse of Aang, where she excels at the physical side of things, and she's very happy to be the Avatar, whereas Aang was the more reluctant hero. Where here Korra like is like very much wants to go out like, I'm the Avatar, fuck you, like, but she struggles with the more spiritual side of it. I mean, they straight up just say that in the first episode.
And where Aang got to explore and see the world from a young age, even before he was like had to be thrust into the savior of the world role, you know? Like he just got to live as the air nomads and they got to go everywhere, right? Korra is isolated to like the South Pole, and that's like it. And it doesn't look like she has that much freedom because she has to ask to leave with her pet polar bear dog Naga, you know, for a run in the afternoon. Like that's not a great sign of how overprotective and overbearing the rules are for her as an Avatar. You know.
Well, again, you have to remember she's like a walking god. So, like, people are probably very protective of the walking god. And I guess if you look into expanded universe stuff, that's like the traditional way they handle Avatar stuff, where like the Avatar kind of has to go away for a few years. And I mean, and that's set up in Last Airbender, where we learn about the Avatar before Aang.
Oh yeah, with Roku.
Yeah, we learn about Roku, and he kind of goes on like a similar thing where like once they find out he's the Avatar, he has to go away to like learn all the elements, and then he can come back and be the Avatar. Whereas Korra, she's mastered the first three, but hasn't mastered air. She can't get a handle on it.
And that confinement with tradition is another big element of the series, specifically in this season, where tradition might not always be the best path to knowledge, and enlightenment. I guess it's sometimes it can be a literal prison here.
Katara's in the first episode. I guess we could just throw that out there.
Katara, and there's a very sad moment, not to jump ahead too much, but she tells Korra, like Aang and a lot of her friends are gone, and it's like, that's kind of just a sad thing, but I mean, like, ideally, like, in the perfect world, the next generation, like, once they've kind of played their part in saving the world, they would feel comfortable handing it off to the next one, that's a sign of good things.
Death comes for everyone, kids.
That's
it's the lesson to take away here.
We will see that not all of the friends are gone as the series continues.
Without spoiling it, that becomes the thing that got on my nerves a little bit the first time around.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, why did everyone else hold on, and why did the people that didn't hold on make it? To me, there's a couple where it's like, oh, sure, they didn't make it, but.
Well, Aang, I get it. His body, he was fucked up, before he turned 13.
You need Aang to be dead so the show can work. But...
Yeah, but I'm just saying, it makes sense for him to be gone, because, not just because of that, but, just, cut to, every time he got royally fucked up in the last show.
Yeah. Yeah, that kid went through a lot. I hope he passed away in his sleep.
Yeah, for real. Because I'm surprised he made it to 50, honestly.
It's like fucking poor Abe Lincoln. Where it was like he aged fucking 10 years in 4 years.
Yeah.
It was like he asked John Wilkes Booth to shoot him. I can't do this shit anymore.
You guys can handle Reconstruction, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, totally. No, you know what he asked me? He was like, you guys are also assassinating the vice president, right? And Wilkes Booth's like, yeah, totally. I put my top man on it. And he's like, great. But then that guy got drunk and didn't go through with it. So then we got the worst president in U.S. history, which is saying something.
I don't know. We're coming off a real winner right now.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Hey, he'll make the top 5.
You mean bottom 5?
Whatever. Top 5, bottom 5. I guess we should mention some of the cast. I mean, Janet Varney is the voice of Korra this time around.
Yeah, another Whitey.
Yeah, awful lot of honkies in this season.
But to the credit, if this never happens again, I will praise her for being genuinely very good in the role of Avatar Korra.
She's great. Her voice acting is really great. The only problem is because she's also a stand-up comedian, and that's just her voice. She's not doing a voice. So that is her voice. So whenever I hear her doing comedy, to me, it's like I imagine that when all this shit was over, Korra decided to go on a stand-up comedy career. 'Cause it just sounds like Korra.
Well, in the Tumblr days, because I guess Janet Varney was on this comedy web series about I think it was making fun of Big Brother or something like that, and she played a lesbian in that, a repressed lesbian, and so they matched clips from Janet Varney's character to Avatar Korra, and it's just
I know what you're talking about.
It is delightful.
There was a lot of that. I mean, where Tumblr will actually play probably a big part in this series.
Oh boy, will it! I got a history there.
Yeah, I was on there. I mean, and I remember the hype and everyone being excited. I remember the memes. And I to be honest though, I must have gotten lucky because I somehow missed how large the hatedom was. Like
it got bigger as it went along, and thankfully so did the positive groups, you know. And there's always like I'll put I'll share some posts as these episodes go up in early 2021. But like my favorite post ever about Legend of Korra, it just totally encapsulates my feelings on it. It's like, yeah, you know, not a perfect show, but like I have a really real appreciation for it. Great characters, great art. You know, I enjoyed my time with it. Then you read some slight criticism of it. It's like, no, actually, the show is perfect. And you're wrong.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you want to double down.
Yeah.
Like, fuck you. How dare you?
Yeah, really. That's what it kind of comes down to. Like, no, it's not perfect, but
I'm
fuck off.
really not that militant about things I like, you know? Like, I jokingly will threaten people because that's what I find funny. But, you know, it's like, other than Jaws, I don't get that defensive.
Yeah, like I'm proud to say I think I've gotten a lot better about that. But with this show, I will definitely, you know, like harden shell, like get behind me, Avatar.
I remember I tried to get a friend into Star Wars, and like they came back to me like it wasn't for me, and I was like, okay. And meanwhile, if someone was like, I tried to watch Legend of Korra, I thought it sucked, I'd be like, we're fucking throwing down.
And I just start loading a shotgun.
Yeah, it's like, what'd you say? And I don't totally know why. Maybe this was just like the right, because like this show premieres like right after I graduate from high school. So.
Oh my god! Yeah, the next year.
Yeah, like I feel like that maybe played a part in all this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, going to community college every day and just being like, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. I'm a failure because I don't know what to do at age 19.
And cut to like almost a decade later, and it's still just like, I'm confused.
I don't know what to do, but no one else seems to, so I feel more comfortable in my indecision.
Yeah, kids, that's basically what it's like to grow up. Yeah. So don't worry about it.
Yeah, Dan Doherty, don't worry.
Yeah.
You're fine. You're fucking 21 or whatever, how old you are. I don't even know. You're fine. Right now,
but to get back
to just fuck around.
To get back a little bit more to the character stuff, I had forgotten that like we don't really meet a lot of the characters. We meet about half of the cast in the first episode, and then half the cast in the second episode. And I didn't go over it in this one, but if you're watching this or listening to this, then you know we're going over the first 6 episodes, the first half of Book 1, Air, for Legend of Korra. The second half will be in the next episode, and we'll talk about this stuff there. But yeah, the cast isn't like, it slowly accumulated.
Yeah.
Not as slowly as in The Last Airbender, which also kind of might be one of my issues with this season, if I'm being honest. It's
might want to hold back on that shit a little bit.
But anyways,
we'll
we meet.
I don't know how I feel.
Okay. Well, we meet Tenzin, who is Aang's son, voiced by J.K. Simmons, another whitey, but it's J.K. Simmons.
Yeah, it's hard to not be like, it's like, that's the thing, it's like all these guys, like a bunch of white guys, and it's like, they're white, but it's J.K. Simmons. Like, it's like every time it happens.
Yeah. 3 years from the release of this pilot episode, he will be saying, goddamn time-traveling robots in a Terminator sequel. So, look, I take my J.K. Simmons where I can get him.
He was in a Terminator sequel?
He's in Terminator Genesis.
Jesus Christ.
I know. Yeah, I know.
Oh, God. What? We do not treat J.K. Simmons well enough.
No. It's like after Whiplash, everyone started taking, like, him for granted again.
Yeah, fucking... maybe he'll actually get to do something in Zack Snyder's Justice League. Like, I'll forgive any sins of that movie if he just fucking has, like, one good scene in it.
I want him to, like, punch a hole through, like, an alien or something like that, you know? Like,
I don't know if I want
something
that,
in the chest.
But...
No, because his characters tend to be a little more bloodthirsty.
Yeah,
I would like to see him just unleashed.
But he's not a master of the physical. He's a master of the fucking word. Like, he's just great at delivering dialogue.
All right.
I want him to give, like, a great monologue where he's like, Batman, I always believed in you, but I just can't follow you here. And he gives some fucking speech. But his wife left him or some bullshit. And, and just like, and you're like, oh my god, give him another Oscar. And it's like, instead he's like probably just gonna fucking suplex some guy.
If he suplexes a parademon, then it'll be the best DCEU movie.
I will only be satisfied if he beats Steppenwolf. Just fucking kickboxes Steppenwolf to death.
Also in this cast, do you know who plays Tenzin's wife? I did not know this.
Yeah, I literally just found it out.
Okay, so we found out literally like at the same time.
It's fucking Maria Bamford.
Yeah.
Another great comedian.
Wow. How did that happen? How did that get by?
She's a great voice actress because she can really disguise her voice. I mean...
Yeah, she is fantastic. Have you seen Lady Dynamite on Netflix?
Is fantastic, and I recommended it to all my friends, and they were like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, because, Netflix isn't great at promoting their shit. Lady Dynamite's great. Everyone watched Lady Dynamite. Got canceled, only 2 seasons, 20 episodes. Please watch it.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, I did not realize that was her until I was rereading who was on this fucking show. But there's a great moment where Tenzin shows up, and someone goes, like they were talking about, we've been talking about all these stories of Avatar Aang and blah blah blah. It's like, tell us the story of Zuko's mom, and like, oh, that's a long story full of great adventure, and then some fucking shenanigans interrupt it.
I might be mistaken, but I think they're even interrupted by like a record scratch sound.
Something does it, and to me that was like it's almost a little too antagonistic with the audience, and trying to be like, that's not what this show's about. And I'm glad they get it out there like right away, but it does feel like if you showed up, maybe if you were going to make a video called Everything Wrong with the Legend of Korra, and that happened 5 minutes in, you'd probably turn on the series pretty quickly.
It might be a little too antagonistic, but you know what? Considering how much like fandom gets coddled nowadays, I welcome it with open arms. Fuck them. Sorry, yeah, fuck them kids. Like, but like, yeah, like. This kind of has the Star Wars sequel trilogy problem in that, I mean, in terms of fandom, where it's like, well, I wanted to see the adventures of like the other cast, and it's like, well, then you could watch that original series, can't you? Like that's
series. And hey, there's a very solid comic book out there.
Yep, there you go. That it's like when people ask for like, oh, I want to see a Darth Vader movie, like when he was younger. It's like there's 3 of those.
That one's the best though.
No, it's hilarious, but it's also like it's the best one to done because it's like, well, you got about 6 hours of that waiting for you. It's called the prequel trilogy,
by the way.
Yeah.
So you got.
And so like I think with shows like this where they have such high expectations for them, you almost have to put your expectations aside, not to not criticize, because like we were talking about already, there's maybe some skeletons in these closets, but like you have to accept what it is going forward. You can, if you can't like jive with it, if you can't meet it halfway, I'll even say that's okay, but like don't complain about it being something it's not.
Yeah. You always have to come to terms with what it is, especially if you're going to criticize it.
Yeah, because if you're saying, like, well, Korra's not as calm-headed as Aang, like, you should probably stop talking for a while. Like, take 5, come back again, try again tomorrow, and we'll see where we can go from there.
We're not going to tell you, but you got to put those pieces together yourself. We're trying to teach you a lesson. But, yeah, I mean, it's that thing where it's like there's a fairly popular meme of, like, Korra's worst avatar. Because she's always fucking up, and it's like, that's the fucking show.
I know, like, God, it's stupid. I don't know. Yeah, maybe we shouldn't even spend any more time on those because they're just dumb complaints.
Yeah,
but like,
I'll go in harder as we get into it. But
yeah, there'll be opportunities for sure.
Mm-hmm. Tenzin shows up and he's immediately like, I can't train you because there's shit going down in Republic City. We're having problems. I guess we should tell what Republic City is.
Oh yeah, but Republic City, and we'll meet the rest of Tanzin's family right now. I'll kind of do a quick rundown of that, but like Republic City is a region of the Fire Nation conquered Earth Kingdom that was used by Avatar Aang and Fire Lord Zuko to kind of form like a central hub for all benders and nations alike to come together as like a nation state essentially. And it welcomed everyone. It's the four nations. It's the ideal platonic version of like the UN. It's kind of, I guess, like if the UN was like an actual like nation state.
Yeah, the UN, which never makes any mistakes ever, and has been roundly been a success in the past 50 years or whatever. But that's a lot of that is covered in the comic book, the Avatar: The Last Airbender comic it's centered around that.
Oh, really? Okay. See, because I've never read that, and that's pretty interesting. Like, I would actually want to read that.
I've only read about half of it, and I guess part of what happened was in the story. It's actually really interesting. I don't think it totally works. I feel like I want them to take the comic and then rewrite it, and then that's what you could make into a movie. If you're gonna do one, because there's like a ton there, but from what happened was, so after the war, it was like, all right, the Fire Nation has to hand back all these colonies, because like they've been colonizing the Earth Kingdom forever, and it's like they got to return to the Earth Kingdom, and this one colony's like, hey, we don't want to give up, and then it's like, well, you have to, it's a treaty, and it's like, well, we've been here so long that now like our families have like intermingled, like, so now it's like families are both firebending and earthbending, and you'd be dividing families if you split it up that way, and it becomes like this issue of like, what do you do with these kingdoms, these cities? And I guess what we find out is Aang just like, all right, now it's a free city.
And I mean, like, that's a hard nut to crack. Yeah. A lot of this show is about how the handing off of power to other generations isn't a cut and dry solution to a lot of the world's problems. I don't know what else I would do in that situation. Yeah. Honestly, that's kind of a best case scenario in my opinion.
Complicated issue, and definitely do not try to make any real world comparisons.
Do not do that,
because those play out a lot differently.
Mm-hmm.
But that's kind of the foundation for Republic City.
Yeah, and I think actually one of the best things this season does right off the bat is that they start getting you acclimated to Republic City and let you know very early on that like this is where we're spending our time.
Republic City just looks great too.
Yeah, there's this great atmosphere. It's like it's got this whole nature park, with the Avatar Aang statue in the bay too. It's kind of like Golden Gate Bridge hanging over the bay. And then there's this like thick like fogginess at night that kind of makes it like almost like a noir.
It honestly looks a lot like fucking New York and Once Upon a Time in America, which is high praise coming from me.
High praise, and maybe kind of like a hints at the seedier elements going forward in the season. Because
I should just give a heads up to anyone who has it. It does not get as seedy as Once Upon a Time in America, which is one of the most brutal films you'll ever watch. But
but hey, but for a kid's show, it does not like. It doesn't pull its punches as often as you think it would.
Yeah.
But yeah, I also want to touch a little bit more on Tenzin's family because they are obviously Aang's kids and grandkids, and they are the last group of airbenders on the planet. And Tenzin's much more rigid than Aang was. And I think one of the best characters across the Avatar like series, like bar none. Like I really love the conflict this character has going forward, where it's like, yeah, he's like a stern asshole in the beginning, but like the pressure that he must have had, like growing up, the son of not just the Avatar, but the last Airbender. And he's like, son, when you grow up, you're going to have to carry on this legacy.
You're going to be the last Airbender.
Like, that's just like... that pressure is insurmountable. You know,
what's great about it is how they slowly wheel that information out. Like, it's not like he doesn't say that openly, you know? Like, you just start slowly getting, like, bits and pieces, and you start putting together who Tenzin is as a person. And I think that was something that Last Airbender did, but because those characters, I don't want to say weren't super complicated, but I don't think they were complicated in a way a lot of characters are in this series. So I think it was a little easier for people to deal with, like, the little bits of information. Whereas here, it felt like, and maybe it was just because it was the Tumbler era, I felt like people were a lot quicker to jump to judgments for these characters than trying to piece together what was going on.
I think so, because that's when you get the actually, canceled era of Tumblr, like when problematic, it's like, I can't watch that, it's problematic, and that's not what problematic means.
Yeah.
Problematic just means like, hey, there's some iffy stuff here, it's important to acknowledge. Whereas, like, I flashed back to a conversation we had during the final episode of our last Airbender recording where you brought up that, Aang's conflict with killing Ozai wasn't just that he was raised not to murder, he's a pacifist, but also that him killing essentially ends the last Airbenders, because then how could he feel comfortable passing on that knowledge and experience when he's already broken it?
Yeah. Yeah, it was more than just murdering that guy.
Yeah, and that's not a subject that people bring up a lot, about the killing, like Aang avoiding killing Ozai in the finale. And so I was really taken back by that in a positive way. Whereas, like, here, like, from the get-go, yeah, these characters feel like they have that level of complexity, like, already, maybe not to the same extent, but, like, there's a lot going on, and as the series progresses, it starts unfolding, or at least the season, it starts unfolding, like, pretty rapidly. The pacing's, like, a lot better than I remembered.
Yeah,
like,
same. I got into it a lot easier than I did last time around.
Yeah, because, like, the Probending stuff, I think, is the point of contention for a lot of people, in that, like, a lot of the complaints were about, like, well, it's just like it's an action-oriented show now. Whereas The Last Airbender was about more than stuff like that, and I disagree with that.
That's the worst complaint I've ever heard.
They get worse. Don't worry.
That's awful. That's just, like, completely, like, ignoring why anyone watched Avatar: The Last Airbender. Like, you did not put on, when you were a child, you didn't put on Avatar: The Last Airbender because you wanted this complex story about some kid who was a god who had to fucking fight a one-man war as a pacifist. And you watched it because you're like, oh, it would be cool to shoot fire from my hands or fly. Like, that's why you watch the show initially, and then you stay because of that other shit. And that show is so front loaded with action. Like, I don't know, that's crazy to me.
Yeah.
I get that, like, Probending, it kind of goes like, all right, here's the Probending scene again, because it's kind of the same actions over and over again. I could see that complaint, but the complaint that, like, oh, it's now an action series, it's like, dude, it always was.
And I'm actually very happy with how, like, at least in the first big moment, chapter 2 of Leaf in the Wind, the Probending stuff weaves its way into the narrative, where it's that tradition versus, like, experience kind of confrontation between Korra. Like, I don't know how to think like an airbender. I don't know how to think more casually and calmly, but this allows her to express herself and maneuver in ways that she hasn't before, and might in a more healthy manner, to express herself, because she likes punching shit.
Avatar Aang was a pacifist, and Korra only understands violence.
Like, those memes of, like, those cats that are, like, all angry with, like, the captions, "Father, I crave violence."
Yeah.
Like, that's Korra as a child.
That's not inaccurate. One thing I gotta say is, though, I like that Katara is, like, the final bit of encouragement for Korra to leave and just sneak onto the boat and sneak to Republic City. Like, that's, like, Katara's, like, last thing.
Yeah.
Like,
well, that was...
What were you saying?
Oh, okay, I thought you had a call or something. Well, that was Korra. Like, I mean, that was Katara.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she was the one who was like, "Hey, the way this is working is wrong, and I think we should change it." And everyone's like, "Whoa, whoa, you can't." And
Yeah.
then she just did anyways. So it's like
All right,
it
I'm
makes.
gonna go pretend to be a ghost.
Yeah, I'm gonna go do eco terrorism.
I'm gonna pretend to be a ghost to justify my eco-terrorism.
Katara and Poison Ivy would get along great, I think.
They probably would. Although there would be that moment where Katara would be like, "That's actually going too far," like when fucking Jet was gonna flood the town full of children.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, yeah. I mean, come on.
Because Poison Ivy
Um,
always goes a little bit too far.
yeah,
I like that our world has gotten so awful that like Poison Ivy is more sympathetic than Batman.
I know. Batman should be canceled, but Poison Ivy kind of owns.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I also like that Korra has parents. Like a lot of time in
Yeah.
these fantasy adventures, it's like, oh, the mom died or the dad died tragically while like doing revenge or something or
We
trying to
still
protect
get
his
some of
family.
that. We still get some of that.
Oh no, we do with the rest of the supporting cast, but like no, Korra just has like a mostly stable like home life, and that doesn't mean her struggles are any less difficult though. Like I just like that we have that spread of characters
It is kind of
available to
nuts
us.
that like just like 100 years ago, it was like every family had like 3 siblings that didn't make it to adulthood, and like
I know.
a parent who like got run over by like a horse or something. Like
Well,
every,
I mean, like that's still that's something I still hear, or like not too much anymore. But like when I was younger, I heard a lot about that from like relatives or something. Like I would hear stories about like the Mexican Revolution and how like they would hide relatives in like rice barrels and stuff like that to hide from soldiers and
Yeah.
stuff and like how not everyone always made it. To safety and stuff like that, and
My family was
it's relevant.
my
for
family
sure.
was Italian. They all just dropped dead at 50.
It's unrelated to any health issues, right? That just happens when
Yeah,
you're
it's-
Italian.
It's the law.
Oh, okay.
You're 100% Italian. You have to drop dead at 50. The calzones, they betray me. But yeah, it's because like actually I think that's part of it where it's like she's growing up in a lot safer world than Avatar Aang did. There's not a war going on yet. But she's not living in a place where like the fucking water tribes, like now the water tribes are kind of back. They looked like they were doing pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, compared to the first episode of The Last Airbender, where like in our recording, I was like, "Is that it?"
Yeah.
Like, I remembered it being bigger.
Were they southern or northern? I can't remember now.
They were the southern tribe.
they're
The northern
southern.
tribe is the big battle one.
Because there was like, here's the southern water tribe. It's 12 people. Like, oh
Yeah, and now it's like a robust like nation again.
yeah, everything's great now, and I'm sure it'll stay that way.
Yep, I'm sure there's no problems whatsoever.
No
And
problems.
the rest of Tenzin's family, I also just want to mention, he has
Keep trying.
3 kids and another baby on the way. The first kid is Janora, who is like the ideal like daughter who listens to her parents and is very book smart and everything like that. And then there's Iki, who is like the caffeinated child, and then Milo, who's like Aang if he was a crazy person. He's like Aang if he had Boomy's personality.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, which is fantastic. That kid is so fucking. All the kids are fucking great, and on this rewatch, it really settled with me how much I love them as characters.
Yeah, and I'm glad they get more as the series goes on. Like they don't
Yeah,
get kinda
yeah.
left behind.
Mm-hmm.
Which is something that you kind of feel like that could have happened in other hands. But
Yeah,
they actually
yeah.
remember that these kids are still characters, even this isn't like the child friendly story. I don't want to say not child friendly, but like not child centric story that Last Airbender was.
Yeah, and it's really fucking difficult to have this many characters and have them all feel like they have their own identities, because we haven't even gotten to like Mako and Bolin yet.
Yeah.
and they're like the other main, or Asami, which we will get to shortly too.
Yeah, we're
but
still
like,
on the first episode.
Yeah, or Lynn, and you see what I'm getting at. There's a lot of characters here, and I'm not gonna say I don't remember the show mismanaging them a couple times, but like on the up and up, like generally these characters are well served by like from what I remember.
Here's
and
the
that's
thing.
not always the case with a cast this large.
And this might shock some people considering some of the characters. Here's something I think about this cast, like this group. I like these characters so much, the story could be dog shit. And I would still like the story. I would still like the show, I mean. Because I like these characters.
Yeah, like every once in a while you get something with just the right amount of like lovability from its cast that it's like you can kind of just watch them do anything, you know? Like I know you're not a fan, but I loved Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel. Angel less so with his characters, not quite the gold mine, but like there are some rough episodes of Buffy, but it was just fun to see those characters like do some dumb adventure for like
some rough
40 minutes.
episodes of Buffy, and I just happened to watch all of them.
No. Okay. I can't even stop you from dunking because of recent events.
Buffy, yeah, I know everyone like hates Joss Whedon now and all that shit. But like Buffy, I understand why people love it. I just feel like I missed the window where I could have enjoyed it. Kind of like Supernatural, which also went through some shit recently.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, that was like always just bound to happen. Like I saw that coming like 10 years ago.
We're revisiting Korra, and like it feels like we're in the middle of like a reevaluation of like every show that was popular when Korra was out.
This was Sherlock. Sherlock came out this same year.
Yeah, well, it was like
that lasted like 5 years.
It was like Sherlock, Doctor Who, Supernatural, and something else. I can't remember what the other show was.
The Super Hulock, right? Yeah, that was the Tumblr thing. Oh my god,
that was the thing. And then Korra was like, "Can I have some?" And they were like, "No." But I'm gonna say of that bunch, I think Korra might come out on top compared to all those shows. Oh,
there is no comparison.
I think people would have some arguments for Doctor Who, but I think that era of Doctor Who was very rough in a lot of places.
I tapped out of Doctor Who in that era. I have a soft spot for it just because it's super fucking nerdy and like the concept is rock solid. But like,
you want to know?
I'm just done for a little while.
To enjoy Doctor Who now,
watch every couple of years.
No, what you do is you wait until the season's over, and then you look up what episodes people liked.
Okay.
And then you just watch them.
Well, and not to get on another tangent, never on this show, right? Yeah, but every actor who's played the Doctor is a genuinely like great actor. Mm-hmm. I don't think there's ever been one that I haven't wanted to see do other things.
It was never the actor's fault. Anytime that show ran into problems.
Yeah, totally.
It was never the Doctor I had the problems with. Mm. Usually other things. But hey. What if Stephen Moffat?
Everyone's still like Stephen Moffat, right?
Yeah, what if he took over Avatar?
No.
I don't even know enough about the guy anymore to dunk on him correctly. Like back then, I would have been like, yeah, Moffat would have been like, meh. But now I'm like, probably would have had a weird attitude about women, but like, I don't know anything specific about it anymore.
Now, all the women in his stuff just have like dark secrets that they need to unravel. Like his women aren't characters; they're mystery boxes.
Yeah.
That was his problem.
That was a big problem. Could have done better with that.
Mm-hmm.
Remember when he wrote Tintin?
Oh, what?
He wrote Tintin with like Edgar Wright and someone else.
You know what? Here's the Moffat thing, where he has like a good idea or two, right? And if you have someone telling him what to do, like. Like he wrote that like legendary episode of Doctor Who with
Blink
the angels.
Is still like fantastic.
Yeah, and like you just have to tell him what to do. You can't give him the reins to anything.
Yeah,
it's like J.J. Abrams. You don't make him the head of Star Wars. You have him do one and then go make other movies.
Yeah, and then you put him in a sandbox with some toys, and then tell him just have fun, J.J. But
I'll take it from here.
What you do with Stephen Moffat is you go like, this has to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. Right now.
But I've got this fun mystery box.
That's cute. It's got to be solved by the end of this hour. You have an hour to solve this. And then he's brilliant. But if he's got like a full season, it's like, Jesus Christ, buddy.
And to the credit of Legend of Korra's season, it starts doling out as much information as you need, like, from the get-go. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, we're settling into Republic City. Korra's having a problem listening and respecting authority. And, like, I get, even if she wasn't Korra, you know, like, why that would be hard for someone who was, like, that confined for so long.
Well, she's a little bit like, she's got a little bit of Crocodile Dundee going on. In the first, I don't even know if that's accurate. I never finished Crocodile Dundee.
Yeah, I was like, what?
I was like, I just know he's like, I'm a guy from the Outback, and now I'm in the city. And it's like, all right, you're the highest grossing film of that year now. But,
wait, really?
I think he's like number 3. Whatever year Crocodile Dundee came out. I have to check. Wow. It was like a monster hit, and now no one talks about it.
Wow.
Crocodile Dundee, 1986. 1986.
Same year as Manhunter.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Let's see. Crocodile Dundee was the number 2 domestic film in the United States.
Good lord.
Well, just $2 million short of Top Gun.
I hate 80s cinema now.
I know, it's
That's
awful.
like, wow, that's bad. Oh, anyways, plowing ahead.
All right, no, it's more like Coming to America, I guess, would be a better example. But like, you know, she's like, "Oh, I'm just gonna go fish in this lake," and it's like, that's a state park, and it's like, what? Like,
yeah. Well, I mean, like, she's a bull in a china shop. Like, she's literally going through like china shops, trying to help people fighting like local gangsters, but she like destroys an entire city block.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, yay, it's that SpongeBob meme. Yeah, we saved the city, and it's like everything's on fire. You know, it's that. This is why all these like hard hitting attempts at superhero like critical analysis are bullshit. Because Korra does it in the first episode, and every other movie that tries it is like, it's such a serious subject matter. Yeah. We need to spend hours and hours talking about it until we team up to beat the big purple man.
Yeah, they have to do the Kubrick stare for like an hour. Like,
yeah.
Like, should I not?
Yeah, and this is like 10 minutes into the series.
And then like they spend the whole movie doing that, and then at the end they decide, actually, nuclear weapons are fine. It's like, wait, what? And then the movie's over. And then you're like, I guess that's what that movie was about?
Oh, they do nuke Superman, huh?
Yeah, they tried.
Yeah. Well, you know what? No, I'm not even going to get down that rabbit hole, because to that movie's credit, that does not work, and it is proven to be a bad thing.
No, don't they shoot they like attach a nuke to the Phantom Zone or something stupid? Like, they launch a missile.
Oh, in Man of Steel, yeah. I was talking about BVS.
Oh, okay.
They both basically have the same ending, but BVS has a little more ideas in it.
I had a stroke the last time I tried to watch BVS, so I don't remember what happens once the Doomsday fight starts.
But anyways, like, yeah, like it's not like a mind-blowing revelation to have the thought that like in these stories actions could have consequences, you know? It's just like, that's something that you have to constantly explore. You can't just bring it up. And to the credit of this, while also having like populated a world that is moving away from the Avatar, that like it's literally like the theme embodied, right? It's presenting the theme itself. Like, how does she operate in a world that's basically been civilized now, right? Like everything is becoming like more modern and industrialized, and there's no real like Aang and his buddies could like go through a town and like kind of destroy it, but also save it, and it'll be like okay, because like that's all they had to offer when the world was at war. Now it's like you can't just throw someone through a window and not have consequences, because that was someone who's paying for that. Is the city going to pay for that? What if that was like an embassy? Is that like nations going to have to pay for that? Do you have to answer to that? And it's like, those are valid questions. The series does constantly address it.
for vigilantes? That seems like a bad thing to bring up right now, actually.
No, I mean, like, why not talk about that, though, in this world, you know?
Yeah. Not great to talk about in this world where, like, fucking the Michigan militia's on the street, but...
No, yeah, because in the real world, if you're a vigilante, you're probably just looking to fight someone, and that's not great. You're probably a racist.
You've been a masked-off white nationalist for about the past 3 weeks.
Yeah, so, the real world doesn't allow that, and for good reason. This is fiction fantasy, so we can kind of get away with talking about this stuff.
Another thing that's introduced pretty early on is when Korra goes to the park and starts fishing, because she gets to the city and she's not even like, all right, time to clean up the city. She's like, I gotta feed my fucking dog bear.
Yeah.
And then she's like, I got no money because people have been giving me things my whole life. And then they're like, get the fuck out of here. And so she goes fishing, and she immediately meets a homeless man. And he's like trying to do like one of the things where it's like, pardon me, like trying to be fancy, which I always find funny when it's like like the homeless guy with like the busted top hat and like holes in his gloves, and then like, excuse me, good sirs.
Yeah,
that always makes me laugh.
With like the missing shoe.
Yeah, it's always the best. Even though that's not how homelessness works in real life.
Yeah.
But then she's like, what do you mean you're homeless? You're in a public city. And it's like, oh, Korra. You got a lot to learn.
I think the class stuff in this season, it's so weird. Sometimes I think it's actually very clever and very well orchestrated. And then other times I think it's a little mismanaged. I won't even say misguided. I think mismanaged, if that makes sense.
I think there's more going on to it than we give it credit for.
At the end of episode 1, Welcome to Republic City, we meet Amon, and
we also before that we're somewhat introduced to Amon because there's that guy preaching in the park, being like, the Benders suck and they're oppressing us, and Korra's like, what are you talking about? Bending's the best thing ever. And he's like, oh, I guess you'd say that, Bender. And like the whole crowd's on her, and she literally shouts at him, I'm not oppressing anyone, you're oppressing yourselves.
Yeah, that's a line that I could see people being like, oh no.
Hey, but there's immediately a guy in a crowd that goes, that doesn't even make sense.
Yeah. No, I mean, the show, I agree with you, the show has more going on than I think it's given credit for with its politics, but there's some stuff that still just does rub the wrong way. It doesn't mean there's not more there going on, though.
She's 100% in the wrong in that moment, though. Like,
yeah, I agree. But, I think, nowadays, it's just, it could be a little harder for people to kind of get into the flow of the show because of stuff like that.
I guess.
Especially in this year.
Yeah, I know, definitely. But also, I just think that, I don't know, I feel like we'll have to see. Because, I really vibed with it for these 6 episodes.
Okay. Well, I will say that I know plenty of people that did start it after watching The Last Airbender for the first time and just fell in love with it just as much.
Okay.
So, that's...
I just think that...
It's just something I thought of.
I'll have to save it, but I think there's more going on. But it's... But like I'm saying, I think Korra is 100% framed in the wrong, and I think... to bring it back to the Tumbler era, it's like the first time you're told you have privilege, you know?
Yeah.
She never had to experience that. Now she's out in the city, and it's like, hey, guess what? You got some fucking Bender privilege. And she reacted in a way that, probably the majority of people react when they're told that. We can act like, where it's like, oh, I took the high and mighty road, but there were times when you probably took the low road, and you're like, hey, no, I didn't do anything wrong. It was other people. And then you have to really think about it. You're like, actually, they had a point. or you double down and you join a hate group. But speaking of cops,
no,
Korra, after she tries to stop some gangsters who are the triple threat triad. Which is organized crime bending, which I honestly wish we could have seen a little bit more of.
I completely agree.
That's one of those things where it's like, I really wish there was just a season of Korra just fucking up like organized crime benders.
Because then I think it would also, like, if it tied more into the politics, like the literal politicians of Republic City, which we do get to in this season as well, like, just that I think that would kind of help acclimate the like the political themes of like oppression and like people in power a little bit more,
I'm not
kind of
even
tying it
looking
all
at
together.
in that high and mighty way. I just want some really like thick Italian accents for benders. Like,
No, okay, so we figured out how to fit Bill Burr into The Last Airbender in the Fire Nation. This is his like relative, right?
Yes, exactly. No, it's just like I also just wanted because I'd want there to be one scene where it's like there's an organized crime guy doing some fucked up shit, but then he realizes he's secretly working for like a worse group, and then you get like the Rocketeer moment. Where
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I may be a crook, but I'm not no 2-bit Nazi, you know, which is like all I want in cinema. Cause I'm
well, I mean, that's the best moment in movie history.
It's great. I also want, I also want to give like Miller's Crossing-esque dialogue to Benders. Where it's like, like the underworld is just like gambling and all sorts of shit. And speakeasies and shit. I don't know what the Avatar equivalent of that would be, but...
Well, I know what the Avatar equivalent of Anton Chigurh is.
Oh.
It's Amon.
I get, no, Amon's not that.
No, okay, maybe the nihilist is not the correct way.
We know who he is.
Oh, he's Bane.
Yeah, another character from 2012.
Yeah. So it's like
your precious armory.
And not to give it away because not everyone's seen the show, but it's very similar.
There's a lot of similarities. He blows up a stadium. I mean, that actually happens.
But it's so crazy because, like, that episode aired before Dark Knight Rises came out. This was in production from 2010, the same year Dark Knight Rises went officially into, like, pre-production and stuff like that. So, like, they didn't copy it, but it's so similar. There are so many similarities.
Based on these 6 episodes, though, I'm willing to say this landed it better than Dark Knight Rises.
I love Dark Knight Rises. Let me rewatch these next 6. Mm-hmm. I'll see how it goes.
I will admit to defeat if the next 6 prove me wrong. But if I'm going based on these 6, it's better than Dark Knight Rises. Now, that being said, Dark Knight Rises, the first half of that movie starts out pretty strong. And then it kind of like loses the thread and then kind of sticks a landing, but so we'll see if it gets equally as messy. And should we mention the voice of Amon?
Yeah, it's Tom from Toonami.
Yeah, it's also Spike from Cowboy Bebop.
Yeah, that killer voice, that's like the greatest voice a white man has ever possessed. Like, honestly, that's a great voice.
Don't sell Orson short.
No, okay, yeah.
But no.
Yeah, but I don't want to hear Stephen Blum drunk. He just feels like a comforting, like, ancestor, you know?
But I think that's Toonami. I think that's bringing us back to an era where it's like,
maybe, yeah.
His voice takes us back to that time where it's like we're not going to do our homework, or we already did it if you're a better student than me. And we're just going to sit down and we're just going to watch fucking Dragon Ball Z and fucking Gundam and fucking Dragon Ball and fucking Yu Yu Hakusho and fucking Sailor Moon and some other shit you don't remember. And it was like, yes, Tom. And then he dies, and then comes back as a new Tom.
Is that what happened? I tapped out of Toonami around that era.
Really? This is like early Toonami.
I don't remember Tom dying.
The first year of Toonami, Tom.1 dies.
Whoa, what?
Yeah, he gets killed by like a blob monster.
Whoa, yeah. I have no recollection of this.
But then his brain goes into the next Tom.
Oh, okay.
And you know what? Actually, I think the first Tom wasn't even voiced by Steve Bloom. I think it was someone else, and then he took over. I think with the new body, he got the new voice, and then he was like the host for like the rest of the fucking thing.
Okay.
But so he did not. I don't think he died again. Because I think that was so traumatizing. Because I do remember he got a new look at a certain point, and then he was like, "Hey, if you want to find out how I got this new look, go to the Toonami website." Because it's like we're not gonna do a special where he dies again.
But no, he voices Mon, and he's got a killer voice. And dude, it's so similar to Dark Knight Rises. Like
Yeah.
it's just like, oh, there's an imposing voice, a man behind a mask with a mystery. Like it's they're using the oppressed class to rise up against the oppressors, and it's
But I
just like,
never escaped. Uh,
it's the same thing.
Hell, that metal bending fight on the airship is a lot like the first fight in the plane scene in the opening of Dark Knight Rises.
Kind of,
When
yeah.
the guys are coming down and they come in and start shooting through the windows. That's a lot like those metal benders.
But the second episode does not focus on Amon.
Well,
It focuses.
We didn't introduce Lin Beifong.
Oh my god, we went on like a 20-minute tangent. Lin Beifong. All right.
Lin Beifong. She's a cop and she's one of the main characters. How's that holding up?
It's good. She is also an asshole like Tenzin, but a different asshole. And I say this with love because I really like this character too. It's kind of just like a cop stereotype, but there's like already, I don't know what it is with these writers, but already you can kind of see like the details beneath the surface of the character, you know? Like there's more just going on than her being mad at Korra for making a mess in her city, you know? And I don't know how they do it. I had no idea, but I commend them because that character could be like just generic stock antagonist 2.0.
Well, I also think it's great that it's like she's introduced and it's like, oh wait, you're Lin Beifong, you're related, like your mom was friends with Aang, and then she's like, I'm the Avatar now, and she's like, I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
It's like a splash. I think that's another good like splash of cold water for the audience because I think if nerds were being honest with themselves, and I totally understand, I'm not like even mocking it, I totally understand wanting this, but I think deep down nerds just want a series where it's like new people becoming friends the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh yeah, we're friends now, and then it's great, and then you don't have to think about terrorists and shit. And instead it's like, fuck you, we're not friends.
Yeah, and I mean to the credit of the show as well, that the characters do grow alongside each other, and it's not an easy ride all the time, right? But like even think back to like when you first watched Star Wars, right? Like the prequels are just coming out probably, and you're living it up, and you're like, man, if they did another trilogy after the original trilogy though, I wonder what their kids would be up to.
Yeah.
Like that's a pretty common line of thinking, right? And like I think it's okay to even say you want to see that. But again, when something doesn't present that to you, you can't hold it against that thing for not giving you that.
Yeah, and I gotta be honest, like I remember that like photo that went around where someone photoshopped all four of those characters in the Millennium Falcon, where it's like what could have been or whatever.
Yeah.
And it kind of went around, and it's like I totally like I would have loved to have seen that too. Like I'm not lying, and like I would have loved to have seen that, but I didn't get it, And also that would have been fun for one movie.
Yeah.
That would not have carried a trilogy.
Or like not even the Millennium Falcon one, but there's that one where it's like Luke standing next to Han and Chewie with the blaster, and they're like it looks like an action scene. Like you can visually imagine like that scene playing out, right? It's like, what do we got? Like right, whatever, pew 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 lasers. But it's like, okay, what's the movie around that though? Like I don't.
Yeah,
that
exactly.
scene's kind of exciting, but like what you're presenting to me, but it doesn't mean anything. It's not real.
In that, you just end up being that Patton Oswalt bit where he just did the Star Wars filibuster.
Yeah.
Where he's just like bringing more and more shit into it. Because that's all you can do in those things is just add more plot.
Yeah, really.
You
Because
can't
it's
really
like
tell a story.
Yeah, and I mean, I'd even say that kind of does work in another franchise like that worked on people. But like, if they just keep doing that, like, people are gonna get bored, right? Like that's just gonna happen. This show, like, doesn't introduce the rest of the cast until like some of them until like 4 episodes in.
I was shocked how late a certain character was in showing up.
If it works, it works, you know? Like, that's all that matters. You know, a story is a story.
Mm-hmm.
You figure out what that means in the writer's room, I guess. But A Leaf in the Wind is the first one where Korra really starts getting acclimated to the teachings of airbending, not by following Tenzin, but by figuring out her own way of of moving forward in her airbending training.
Mm-hmm.
And it's still like a physical presence that she's like mastering, but you know, Tenzin recognizes that it's the way forward for her. And it's a nice little lesson. It's a very heartwarming moment to see Tenzin, who's very grumpy at her for joining with 2 characters we'll talk about in a second, and then ultimately getting involved in like the sport of it all, and being like, "Woo, yeah!"
Well, it's like I just like that Tenzin's like immediately like fuck Probending.
Yeah,
it's a mockery of this brilliant art shit. Man, I mean, it's hard to like remember that like basically the different nations, it's like religion, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's like religion if like it actually did things. That might be
I mean, no, like, no. I think that's fair because like so much of like growing up in the Catholic Church, so much of it is like, well, you can't like why can't I just pray at home like as someone who grew up religious?
Gotta
like,
be in the building.
Like okay, but God is everywhere. Like that's something I like. That's just so obviously like bullshit. It's like no, you just. It's a community thing. Like if I had someone explain it better to me, you know, like no offense to my parents who I love, but like, you know, if I think if people had a better understanding of that themselves, it wouldn't be such a point of contention.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, if it was just like, you know, this is how people used to gather in the old days and we still do it out of a sense of tradition, I feel like I would have understood that more than God's everywhere, but also we need to go to this building on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean honestly, because like there are people that because as I went to what the fuck I don't even remember what it's called, not
Sunday school.
Sunday school. No. It's just like not Advent, not communism. What the fuck? You get not crucified. I can't remember what it's even called.
I have no idea what you're trying to say. Confession?
No, confirmation. Confirmation.
Okay.
When you get confirmed, you got to go through like 2 years of classes. It's insane.
Yeah, I did. What did I do? I don't know if I did confirmation. What's before confirmation?
The baptized?
No,
there's a middle one, right?
There's another one. Oh God.
I'm not even trying to be like edgy. I don't remember.
We are both going to hell if Catholicism was right. Like.
Yeah, no. Like that's it. It's over. But the point I just wanted to make was that like I appreciated like the friends in the groups like in that setting, you know, because we're all people our own age and we're like, yeah, it's kind of ridiculous, but like it showed us what like a healthy environment of community could actually give to someone. And it's like, oh, that's why people went to church originally. And now it's different because of like, you know, the advantageous social media environments and like all this other technology, yada, 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 right?
First communion.
There you go.
That's what it was. I did my first communion.
There you go. But like, yeah, you get what I'm saying, right? Like there's reasons why people did it, but there should also be like tradition isn't like the only way forward. But Leaf in the Wind, we get to meet Mako and Bolin. You brought up that the Republic City history was that the Fire Nation and Earth Kingdom families were starting to get intertwined. That's beautifully represented between the bonds between these two brothers, a Firebender, Mako, and an Earthbender, Bolin.
Hey.
And their adorable fire ferret.
Yay.
Who's kind of like the Momo of this series.
And these sort of family interweavings are definitely reflected very well in the real world and have a great history attached to those sorts of things.
Do you want to go on another tangent?
I probably shouldn't.
Okay.
Because it'll get so dark so quick.
Okay, let's
You know what happens when people do those ancestry tests?
Oh yeah, no.
Yeah,
that's okay.
Exactly. We don't want to do that.
Bolin has a crush on Korra like immediately.
Yeah, it's like immediate, which is something I didn't remember. Where she sneaks in to the stadium because she's like, "Fuck Tenzin and his bullshit anti-probending shit. Also, she gets humiliated in her first attempt at airbending, which definitely rubs her the wrong way. And Tenzin says something like, when you meet resistance, you must be able to switch directions at a moment's notice. And it's like, hey, fucking Tenzin, maybe listen to what you preach.
Yeah,
Tenzin. But that's like a recurring thing in the show. But that is also the thing that, like, Korra's big problem is that she's very stubborn. You know? Which is honestly part of the reason why, like, you love Korra. Because you kind of, like, there's something about stubborn people that's, like, you kind of like sometimes.
Yeah, because, like, I think the big thing about Korra versus, like, some, like, other character, like, I don't even have, like, a name to pull. Like, I'm just thinking, like, sometimes this doesn't work. Korra's a good person, like, at heart.
There's Korra stubborn, and then there's refusing to wearing a fucking mask. Even though, like, we're this far into a pandemic stubborn.
Oh, yeah. If you're not wearing a mask, I don't even hope you get it, because I don't wish that on anyone. But, like, you're an asshole. Don't listen to this show.
Look,
I don't want your fucking...
My dad is one of the most stubborn motherfuckers on the planet. It's impossible to get him to do anything. He's wearing the fucking mask. So, you can too. Jackasses. I doubt anti-mask people are listening to this, but
honestly, yeah, I don't think so, which is nice. Thank you, everyone. There's that great moment where Korra does, like, go completely off the handle and, like, just firebends her, like, airbending training area away. And then, like, you know, her and Tenzin hash it out, and she's like, "Oh, you're just a bad teacher," you know, like,
yeah. That was a little harsh.
That was a little harsh, and, you know, it's sad. But then immediately Milo is like, "Yeah, you're a bad teacher, Daddy."
But because of, like, the training not going well, Korra sneaks out, and she gets caught by some fucking cop. I don't know. Now I'm just calling anyone I don't like cops.
Well, no, I think it's the dude who, like, runs the gym that Mako and Bolin live above.
I've heard that excuse before. You know, he tries to be like, you can't sneak in here, and Bolin's like, oh no, hey, there you are. Tries to be, like, all cool about it.
Yeah.
And then he's like, she's with me, and then she's like, nope, we're just friends. Like, she's immediately like that.
Yeah, that's something else I liked. You know, like, that. You know, he's trying to be like a suave dude, and she's like, no. Immediately shooting that down. He's like, oh no, I didn't mean like that. And she's like, no, I think you did.
No, you
yeah,
like
was... she does not. She sees through that bullshit immediately.
Yeah, that's a good moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's so we meet Bolin, and then we meet Mako. It is Mako, right?
It's Mako.
Yeah, because, like, I kept being like, I'm gonna say it wrong. I'm gonna say Mako. No. I'm gonna say fucking Mako.
No, just remember Pacific Rim. Mako.
Yeah. So Mako. And,
no, that's Mass Effect.
Hey, oh yeah. Wait, what the fuck was the Mako in Mass Effect?
It was the car no one liked.
Oh yeah, the car no one liked.
I thought it was fun.
Yeah. Hey, they're doing an HD remaster or something.
Yeah. Mass Effect retrospective?
Hey, I don't know. I can't. The third one's just like, I get burned out every time I get to the third one.
Okay.
I'm not even, like, gonna dunk on the third one. It's just like, I've tried to, like, sit down and play the trilogy, and it's like when I do it every time I get to 3, and I'm like, I'm done.
Oh yeah, we meet Mako and Bolin. They have, of course, a tragic backstory. Their parents were killed by a firebender.
Not revealed yet, though.
Kind of all blends together for me right here. That's what I will say about these couple episodes. I have the wiki right here to have the episodes, like, all lined up, but, like, these next 4 until episode 6, they all do kind of rush together. Like, it's the same episode for me, basically.
All right, that's fine.
Yeah.
You mentioned they're a member of the Fire Ferrets. I think that's their name.
Yeah, the Fire Ferrets, a pro-bending team, and
they're with another guy who leaves after this.
Yeah, because Mako's an asshole. He clearly, like, sucked, but Mako is, like, pushing his buttons, you know?
Mako sucks. Here's the thing. He just sucks. But I want to make this very clear. I thought this didn't happen until season 2, but it actually happened in season 1, which is I actually enjoy how much Mako sucks.
Okay.
Like, it is fun how much he just fucking sucks. sucks. Like, I'm not even, like, angry at him or, like, the character or the writing of him. It's like, I love it when it's like, of course Mako did that, because he sucks.
No, I remembered not being a fan of Mako's character at all.
You know what it is?
I agree with you.
Guess what? I think I definitely did a lot of growing up between when this aired and and now. And, like, I went through, like, phases where I was a shitty person. And just a shitty dude, but also thought I was, like, not, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, when I look back on that, I was like, man, I was fucking stupid. So when I think of that stupidity, I see that stupidity in Mako occasionally. And so now it's just fun to be like, there's that jackass.
I have no evidence of this, though. This isn't even a qualm. This is just something I've thought about a lot. I think Mako and Korra have a will they, won't they thing from the get-go because of Makora fans. Or Zutara fans, excuse me. From The Last Airbender. I think that was there, not to placate anybody, because I don't think this team placates anyone. I think they do intend on creating the best narrative possible. I don't think they're that level of cheap at all. But I do think, or I do get the feeling that was there to be like, look, it's Zutara, but in the next generation.
You know,
and we'll see how that unfolds. That I might just be talking out of my ass for this.
I think you have a bit of a point there, but I will save my rebuttal until later.
Okay.
There's a better time to make that point.
Okay. But that's just the vibe I definitely got again rewatching, and that's what I've had since the beginning.
One thing I didn't remember that, like, the stuff that, like, all the guns that are going to go off in a few episodes, I didn't remember them being set up this early, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, all the relationship stuff that's going to come, I didn't remember, like, I thought some of it was even retroactive, you know? Mm-hmm. Where when the reception of it kind of came out and, like, the writers kind of fixed it, I didn't realize that some of, like, Mako's shittiness was this early. Like, I thought Mako's shittiness was unintentional, whereas this time it feels much more intentional.
Yeah.
He's Mr. Too Cool for school.
Yeah, and, you know, like, it's...
And Bolin is fucking Mr. Take a fucking hint. She just wants to be a friend, your friend.
Yeah.
Which is definitely the guy I want to go back in time and just fucking punch in the face. And just be like, learn this now. You fucking moron.
It's, I think it shows a lot of, just a testament to the writing team and, like, how they're able to have this, like, variety of young adult narratives coming off of, like, The Last Airbender already. Like, it's totally a different group of characters. Even though I was saying, you know, it did remind me of Zuko and Katara shippers a lot.
Yeah, well, you know, I think it does make sense that Korra would be attracted to him a little bit.
No. I get the attraction stuff. Just, like, I think there's a little bit of fan servicey attempt.
Yeah, even though there's a lot of, like, you know, like that, like, oh, you suck, oh, you're a jerk, blah blah blah. Like, in the beginning, it's like front loaded with a lot of that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think it's like being screwball-y and shit. But it just makes sense because like Mako, like, at first at least comes across as the type of guy where he's like, he's being too cool for school. So when he gives you a compliment, it's like you want that guy to give you a compliment, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And then you get to know him too well, and you realize that, nope, I don't want that guy's compliments at all.
Yeah, no, he's just kind of a loser. But
yeah,
he's like,
but
that's
great.
what makes it. Yeah, because it's like it's like a mask for him. You know, this is almost like a superhero style of Avatar show, like where, you know, you got the villain with the mask and the secret identity and stuff like that, right?
Well, they literally start driving around, like, in their own automobile at a certain point.
Yeah, and so, like, you know, I get more of an X-Men vibe from this season than I do, like, well, not more than The Last Airbender, but, like, you get what I'm saying, right? Like, there's more stuff behind, like, the identity instead of, like, no one's just who they say they are.
Well, in the way that, like, the Chris Claremont era X-Men, like, really played up the soap opera of it all.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like who loves who's what, who's related to who, blah blah blah. Like,
Yeah.
a lot
And
of
that's
that
why
going
like the
on.
X-Men's like fun, so it'd be cool to see that in a movie at some point.
Yeah, it'd
But who
also be cool
knows?
to see a good X-Men movie that wasn't made by a total creep.
Yeah, yeah, that would be great. We'll see.
We'll see. I'm sure Marvel won't fuck it up. But back to Korra.
Yeah.
She joins the Probending team after she admits she's the Avatar. Well, they put
And
it
I like
together,
that there's
don't
that
they?
moment when they're back in the official ring, right? And then the announcers and the refs discover that like, oh, she's the Avatar because she's bending multiple elements. That like, should that be allowed? And then they're like, oh, like, you know, they don't say it, but there's that kind of realization because she was doing so bad that it was like, oh, well, she kind of sucks anyway, so sure, just let her keep
Yeah,
going.
as long as she just does water, it's fine. She can only bend one element, I think was what they said.
Yeah, yeah, but like, you know, she was like bombing, like
Yeah,
really
hard.
bad.
It
So
was embarrassing. It was a shameful performance, Cora.
but no, it's a nice other like part two of a pilot episode.
It was also it was aired on the same night, right? So
I believe so.
these
Yeah.
first two were together. I do like the reveal when Tenzin learns that she's pro-bending by hearing it over the radio that the guards are listening to instead of protecting the island. That's
I like that the
moment.
White Lotus has continued like to kind of guide like the Avatar in these days, but also that they're useless now.
I like
Like-
that they're still around, but they suck.
Yeah, that's a fun evolution, you know.
There's a few of those.
The cheap way to do it is to be like Tenzin's part of the White Lotus too. All of course teachers will be part of the White Lotus, yada yada yada. But no, it's just like they're kind of like Avatar cops.
Also, the White Lotus were like plotting some other big thing to fight another big evil that's going to show up in 1,000 years or something.
Oh yeah, they not to get into it, but like they don't do that.
Yeah.
Huh. That's another brownie point for the show, I guess. The chapter 3, the revelation. Because I feel like we kind of...
We just got to point out that Tenzin like is initially pissed, but then he embraces Korra doing the pro-bending. Because she finally starts moving like an airbender when she does it. So he's like, I got some things I can learn. I shouldn't stick to tradition too much.
The show is smart enough to give all these characters room for growth. Because, like, you know, it's not just that it's great to have something like acknowledge real life is also just constant learning and growth. But like it just makes for the characters to be more like malleable to stories in the future too.
Yes. Also, I just got to point out the last shot of this episode. We got Mako, and he's looking out the window, and he's looking towards the air temple. Then you got Korra looking out the window, but she's looking towards the city. And I think that holds great significance
To their relationship and or what?
Well, I think he's got Korra on his mind, you know?
Okay.
I think that's definite. I think Korra's still like got the bigger picture on her mind.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that she's like, I get to experience all these new things in the city. Where it's like, yeah, Mako seems alright. Maybe, you know, he'll be fun as part of this.
Yeah.
But I'm not laser focused on him.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think is an important detail.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's very intentional. But hey.
Okay. Yeah. No. I like that too. I was gonna bring up. I have in my notes that it's the Star Wars shot in Coruscant.
Oh God, no.
Yeah. Anakin and Padme looking out to each other, but you know that's a much darker moment because it's about like, you know, it's a literal like sun setting on the Galactic Empire or whatever. Republic. Fuck, not the Empire yet.
And then he's gonna choke her to death.
No. Anyways, chapter 3 of the Revelation.
He chokes her to death, and then also she recovers from that, but then dies in childbirth, which is a weird detail.
Chapter 3 of the Revelation.
She's lost the will to live, says the robot doctor.
This is where we kind of get back into the class era stuff of the Avatar world, and they're trying to to raise money for their Probending fees, and Bolin and Mako get into a little bit of trouble because they initially, or Bolin specifically gets in trouble, but like there's a history with them working for the Triple Threat Triads for, just trying to stay off the streets and stuff like that. And I had forgotten about that little bit of history, and I like that the show goes there for that, because Korra starts judging them, and Mako's like, we literally could do nothing else.
I just want to say, though, I wrote down one of my notes is just, Mako sucks. It's like my second note for this episode. I think that was that moment where he gives like, oh, I guess you've been getting handed things your whole... He says some snobby thing to fucking Korra. And then he's like, hey, my parents are dead. And then it's like, dude, that's not how to handle it. But Bolin and Maka, they get shaken down by the fucking owner of the place, which is like a fucked up scene.
Yeah.
And
that's not great.
Yeah, it sucks how much people these days can relate to that.
Mm-hmm.
But don't worry, Bolin talks to his friend Shady Shin. I'm sure he'll lead him down the right path.
But Bolin
work with
and
Lightning Bolt Zolt, or whatever the fuck his name was.
Yeah, Lightning Bolt Zolt. But Bolin and Pabu put on a cute little street performance with a little hat and a monocle and the fake mustache, and it's very cute. I love all the cute animal shit in this series.
He gets one credit.
It's very cute. That's all that matters.
Hey, but Bolin is out of his mind if he thought that would work.
Oh no, Bolin is a dummy, but he's like a lovable dummy. He's very much like a Sokka.
Yeah, he's like Sokka if he didn't progress though, because he's like 5 years older than Sokka.
Oh yeah, I forget they're that much older.
Yeah, you gotta remember these are like older, like they're like on the verge of adulthood. Like they're all 17 and 18.
No, Korra's like 16, isn't she?
I thought she was 7. I googled it at a certain point.
Okay, hold on. I'll have to look it up another time.
But also, like, how long this show takes place over like a year or two, right? Like,
not to get into it, but
a lot happens.
A lot happens in like about a year, and then there's a little difference after that. But we'll get there. I really like the moment when Mako starts going to look for Bolin because he can't find him.
No, that's not why he goes though.
Oh, why does he go?
He goes to the air temple looking for Bolin because he thinks Bolin is fucking putting the moves on Korra.
Oh.
Remember, he's like, comes back to the house and he's like, not there. And then he looks at the air temple and he's like, oh, I know what you're up to, Bolin. Not if I can help it. Like, he says some fucking shitty Mako thing. He's such a Mako.
It's that thing where it's like a double entendre where he knows that Bolin's going for Korra, or he thinks he knows Bolin's going for Korra, but really he's like, well, I should put a stop to that.
He's always like, I guess I gotta stop Bolin, when it's really like what he wants to say is like, I want to talk to Korra, but he's like, he's too cool a guy to admit that he likes Korra.
Yeah,
I'm sure that won't fuck everything up for him.
But there's that great moment where Ikki and Jinora are talking to Korra, and they're like, oh, is that the cute firebender boy that you say drives you crazy? And then she just kicks them into the air.
See, Korra only understands violence.
Yeah, but it's so good. Because it's like, for a moment, it's just like, whoa. And then it's like, oh yeah, Airbenders, right, they're okay. And then they just float down in the background. Yeah, that was beautiful. The rest of the episode's kind of like a almost like a small chase thing, and we get to see the Equalists, who are the villains of the season, kind of come into play for the first time.
Well, there's also a moment where they talk to some like young hoods to get some information. They like get shaken down by like children. Oh, yeah. And I just wrote that down because that's another thing that reminds me of Once Upon a Time in America. Because like that's kind of what they were doing initially. So I'm saying those kids don't have a great future ahead.
Oh no.
The one's gonna get shot under the fucking bridge.
No.
There's no guns in this universe, is there?
No, thankfully.
Yeah. They invented cars, but no guns. What a better world.
I know.
I guess a gun wouldn't matter much.
Yeah, if you can bend like metal, I don't think
like,
that makes you Magneto.
It's like, haha, Firebender, I've got you cornered with my gun, and then they just make the metal melt and
I know.
the gun explodes. Like, I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, but we see the Equalists in action, and it's kind of like fighting a bunch of Tylees, but without like the quirkiness,
Well,
and
they
it's
do
much more terrifying.
Yeah, they're scary. But we get that. You get that. This is where we get the speech that Bolin and Mako's parents were killed by firebenders. This is where that's explicit. And this is where I think it starts to get interesting. Because, they're benders, right?
Mm-hmm.
They grew up poor. They had to, they were on the street as orphans. So, they're totally victims of the class warfare that's going on in this city, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you have fucking Amon up there being like, the problems is the benders. And in this episode, he explicitly, Bolin gets caught in the whole scheme, right?
Right.
And he ended up there entirely by circumstance. He was not like a thug going around robbing people. He's like, we're desperate for money, is what it was. So it's like this episode is already underlying that Amon is not solving the class issue in this city. He is exploiting the class conflict and putting the blame exclusively on benders. But it doesn't actually solve anything,
Yeah.
It's a sham from the start. This is why I think Bane kind of isn't written as well, because Bane actually does make valid points. Bane is actually when he's he robs Wall Street and he's like, you people are thieves and shit, and he makes a point, whereas Amon's full of shit from the start.
All right. I mean, I still want to remember how it plays out fully in the next rewatch of the next couple episodes.
That's the thing. I'm only defending these 6 eposodes.
Okay, yeah.
But in these 6 episodes, we're shown that there is class struggle, there is class conflict, the government sucks, that there are all these problems, but Amon is exploiting this to blame essentially a religious faction,
Yeah.
He's kind of like the proto-new atheist if they became a terrorist.
Amon's going to start a YouTube channel.
Yeah, exactly. Where he's the problem is the benders. It's atheists that are we wouldn't have any problems if there was no religion. And Amon says, he gives a speech where he's every war has been caused by benders. And it's we know for a fact that's not even what caused the wars, The wars we've seen were driven by other things.
Mm-hmm.
And even just a poor reading of history will show that,
And then Amon also takes the next step, I believe, in this episode. I might be wrong,
no,
but I'm
that
pretty.
Happens here. That happens here.
Okay, yeah. Well, I guess for the listeners then, that Amon says that the spirits have lost faith in the Avatar, and that he's been bestowed with the power to take away people's bending, which is something that we have seen Aang do with the Fire Lord. Mm-hmm. And so it's that. For right now, that sends a shock-wave through your system for the first time. Hey, whether or not that's true, we do see him take away people's bending, which is a big moment for everyone.
Bolt Zolt.
Yeah.
He's suck on it. It gets fucked up.
There's this great moment where I think it's either him or someone else with firebending, where they're shooting out the fire, electricity, whatever, and he's taking away their bending in the middle of it, and it just kind of sputters out.
Yeah.
That's a great visual. And it's just that's perfect. It tells you everything you need to know about his power now.
Yeah. And it's
great.
He's a genuinely frightening villain. He works as a villain.
Yeah, this is a great villain. Just right up front, completely sends a shiver down your spine. There's an actual threatening component to him. We talk a lot about how Zuko and Iroh in the first season of Avatar, they weren't supposed to be super threatening, but compared to Azula and Amon, it's just no comparison.
Yeah.
Those are genuinely frightening characters. He kind of got like this Michael Myers essence to him too, as he like lumbers towards Bolin, which I really like.
He's kind of doing what Korra is failing to do. It's when like people start shooting like bending at him, he just can dodge it like so simply, which is what Korra has been failing to do.
Yeah, I like that you brought that up because I actually had that too. Sorry to like jump in, but like that he is completely like in tune with his surroundings and his inner conflict, right? Like from what we've seen so far, like he's just like one in a piece with his environment. And Korra is like, like she doesn't even use like bending at first, but when she throws that guy like into like the steam pipes and everything like that, like instead also, of like solving that cleverly, she throws someone against them.
Yeah, but that fight rules. She just fights a dude and starts beating him with a wrench.
No, it's great. All of the action is great too.
I actually wrote down specifically in this episode that the show still totally delivers on the action. Like the Bolin rescue is great. So that's great to see.
Yeah.
We also we get a voice cameo in this. One of those moments where I was like, "Who is that?" And it was fucking Lance Henriksen.
Oh yeah, my boy, Bishop,
playing Lieutenant.
Yep, real riveting character stuff from him here.
I almost wonder if there was a little more written for that character initially, and then they cut it out a little bit.
I don't know. I think of stuff like when people say like, "Oh, this actor was wasted in a role in like an ensemble film," and it's like, if it's an ensemble film, you kind of just need them to play a part, like no one in the Ocean's films are wasted because that's like the joke of those movies, that there's like all these people in on the heist. But like, so like, I don't know, I'm okay with him just being the lieutenant, because like if you need like like someone that's like got a presence, Lance Henriksen's kind of one of the main voices to go to.
Well, the better example of this is something like Heat, where it's like that the cast of Heat is just like stacked.
Oh yeah.
And it's like some people show up and have like 2 lines. Like Jon Voight has like 2 scenes in that movie. And it's like great. And it's like, oh, this is why we still tolerate Jon Voight. Fucking Henry Rollins, who will show up later on this show, is in Heat and like has 2 scenes.
No, he's got 3 scenes.
Oh, all right. Hey.
I've seen Heat enough times. I know my shit. But yeah. That. Anyways, I think he's good enough. He's not playing the most in-depth character.
Yeah.
It happens to him on Hannibal too. He's in 1 episode of Hannibal for literally 1 scene. Yeah. But it's like the best scene of his career. So, or at least one of the best scenes of his career.
Everyone likes Lance.
Yeah. So yeah, that episode's kind of just about like it's Amon literally like making a statement to the city that like, hey, we're here now. Like,
the fucking
buckle up,
Amon's
motherfuckers.
Not fucking around.
Yeah,
shit's gonna be bad. You got to deal with it, Korra.
Yeah, and that's literally what the next episode is about, The Voice in the Night, where she's already having nightmares about the first villain she's going up against.
Yeah. This is one of those things where I think it's like why it works with like a slightly older Avatar. I think there's something about Aang. Like Aang had his nightmares about facing the Fire Lord, but his nightmares were honestly more about like he was afraid he'd let everyone down. He was less afraid. I'm not saying it wasn't a fear, but I think he was less afraid of dying himself. And here it's like Korra's old enough where she knows enough about the world that you can be afraid of death. That moment in life where that kind of shifts for you.
Yep.
And like there's stuff that like happened to me when I was a child where I was like, if I went through that now, it would be like the worst thing that ever happened to me. But because I was a kid and I didn't know any better, I was like, whatever. And I think that Korra's is like, because she's just 17, it's like she knows enough to know how much is riding on her actions and how much danger she's in specifically.
Yeah. And I think we get to see another side of Republic City here with a politician, Tarlock, Councilman Tarlock, who's from the Water Tribe, because in the Republic City, each councilman is from the different nations, right? Yep. No non-bender councilman, though, worth noting.
Although, how many were on the thing?
There's 5, right?
Yeah.
Because there's the main one, and then there's one from each nation, including Tenzin, because he's the only
So
one from the Air Nation.
is one like just the mayor of the city or something?
I think so. Unless I completely like misremembering, there might just be 4 on there,
There might be. I'm
But
trying to remember how the vote went down. I think it's 5. I think it's 5 with Tenzin there.
okay, you know what? Because I think it's like from the Northern Water Tribe and the Southern Water Tribe or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alright.
If we're fucking that up, we'll see about it next time for sure.
Okay.
But yeah, we see him, Tarlok, start to take advantage of like Korra's insecurities. And I think you brought up an interesting point about them being older and as teenagers, when you're growing up and like you're struggling with those insecurities, it's not always easy to talk about them. And so that does lend credence to like Mako sucking and that being like part of his charm because he can't express himself. Korra expresses herself, but the moment she's set off balance and she can't punch a problem away, she can't express why that's concerning to her, and that's what this entire episode's about.
Yeah.
And it's very sad to see because she just keeps putting herself in more and more danger to the point where she's like she becomes a part of like the secret police.
Yeah. Well,
For a
Tarlok
second.
totally fucks and fucking like plays her.
Oh no, it totally does. Yeah, he's like, "Oh, so you're going to join my task force?" And then he like
Leads
in
her
front of like
right-
all these journalists and shit
Yeah.
like that. Yeah,
Right
it's
to, like,
it's
a
so
journalist
seedy
trap.
and
Yeah.
what a fucking politician.
Yeah.
That's I'm not going to say stuff.
This
right
is
now.
why
We got
the
enough
real
going
problem are the politicians and the press. Which is actually an attitude this world ends up adopting by the final season a little bit.
I don't want to say anything, but yeah.
This show goes places.
No, it totally does. I don't think it's on completely solid footing for this season still, but it does do way more than it's given credit for still.
I don't know. I've been
Like-
loving it. Like so far, I'm loving it. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
We also get to meet the final main character, Asami Sato. I don't know why I forgot her name.
She's introduced like most great characters are, almost killing Mako by running over with a moped.
Yeah, that's how every character should be introduced.
Yeah, and it's like, all right, I love this character.
Yeah. Played by Seychelles Gabriel from the last Airbender film.
Yeah, which is wild.
Yeah, this is her redemption arc. Again, she's not even bad in the movie. That movie's just you listen to her episode on it.
Oh my god, she was in the last Airbender movie and The Spirit from 2008, the Frank Miller directed Spirit movie.
This show is her redemption arc.
Yeah.
Because she's very good as Asami.
Good for her.
Yeah. She is the daughter of the industrialist and inventor of the Sato mobile, Hiroshi
Teddy
Sato.
Roosevelt. Oh yeah.
It's Teddy
whatever.
Roosevelt. No, it's
Looks
Teddy
just
Roosevelt.
like Teddy Roosevelt.
Yep.
Yeah. Hiroshi
Voiced by
Sato?
Daniel Day Kim.
Yes. What a nice fella. He's gonna fund the whole team.
Yeah. But I like when he first meets Mako, he's like, "So, I hear you're dirt poor." Like, just I admire that.
Shoot from the hip. He's not fucking around. He's like, I'm a self-made man. I invented the automobile. And if you invent an entire thing that dominates all our lives, you can become rich too. I was like, gee, thanks.
I mean, that's kind of what these shows need to start going for at some point, like down the line. They just need to straight up attack capitalism.
I mean, I think a lot of shows kind of do in like their own weird way.
Yeah. I mean, like these shows end up doing it. Even The Last Airbender does it, I think, to a certain extent, with a lot of stuff going on there. But like, it's harder when it's fantasy, I guess, because it's not our reality. So you don't get like the one-to-one comparisons.
With children's television is because it's marketed as at children, and children don't have any investment in, capitalism yet. Like, all they know is that they get gifts at Christmas. They have no real stake in how capitalism works. So then the shows, like, don't acknowledge capitalism, really. But I think that inadvertently turns kids into socialists.
That's the most amazing point you've ever made.
Because it's like we're shown this beautiful world where it's like, oh, we don't have to worry about money that much. And it's like, get to the real world, it's like, wait, I have to pay 7 different people so I can go to the doctor? I pay insurance every year, and then they don't cover most of the shit.
I just got mail today telling me I wasn't covered for some stuff.
I know. My surgery was like a month ago, and I'm just waiting for that bill to get here. Like, I just know there's gonna be the one where they're like, we determined that 30% of it was cosmetic. And it's like, gee, thanks, you fucks.
But this is another really great episode. This might be the best one of the bunch so far that we've talked about. At least in my opinion, I think it's at least the most emotionally compelling.
Yeah.
And I really feel for Korra.
This is where Mako really sucks. Because he's been fucking totally going, he's been flirting with Korra, and we know that he likes her too, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then this girl comes in, almost runs him over with the scooter, and then they're just like, he's like, well, she's here, I guess I'll date her too. And he's like, the fucking guy can't decide. It's like, hey, man.
And you know, the big concern when I first watched this show was that, like, oh no, right? Like, I think we all kind of felt that. Correct me if I'm wrong. When
like a love triangle was coming.
Yeah, with Asami and Korra, and it was like, oh no, she's just gonna turn into like competition and like an antagonist. Is this gonna be like an easy out?
Korra never seems to really get angry at Asami.
Mm-hmm.
Which is something I did. I thought that they kind of had like a thing. Maybe it comes later, and I just don't remember it. But when she's pissed, she's like, oh hi, fucking Mako's told me so much about you, and then she's like, oh well, that's funny. Mako hasn't mentioned you at all, but she's not saying that at Asami. She's saying it at Mako.
Yeah. That's when I first started feeling relieved. I remember that was a big moment for me because I was like, thank God. Like, okay, we're good for right now, but you never know with this kind of shit, you know?
Yeah.
And we'll get there, but
I think it was handled a little better than I remembered it, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
Because I did think that they were going to kind of fuck it up. But Mako and Asami start dating. It's just, Mako's such a fucking shit. It's just like, dude.
I forget. It's one of these episodes where she's like, I feel so safe in your arms. And it's just like...
that's this one.
Fucking guy.
Yeah.
And
I'm going to do something in an episode.
Yeah. And then, so we got that building up and brewing with Korra's, like, anxieties, right? And then all those hormones and shit. And then you got Tarlok taking advantage of her and, like, cornering her into, like, joining his task force already. And then she straight up challenges Amon to a duel after, like, ambushing some other equalists and stuff like that. She
calls that punk-ass Amon out.
Yeah, which is also like another superhero film, Iron Man 3.
Yeah. It's also a little bit... later, because then she goes and like waits for him. They're gonna fight at the statue of Aang, and she waits for him. He doesn't show up, and then she gets like captured. And he kind of gives the speech from that the fucking Green Goblin gives about like the city will turn on you. What if Willem Dafoe had voiced them?
Whoa. I would have been okay with that.
He should have voiced someone. Stephen Blum's kind of great in this role, but
get him for the next sequel series, because I'm still championing that possibility.
He should just be a lighthouse keeper in everything he's in from now on.
You get close in Aquaman.
Oh yes.
But no, yeah, Korra gets captured by Amon and the Equalists, and then he tells her he's not going to take away her bending now because that'll just make her a martyr. And he's a dude with a plan.
Torture you. Not of
I know.
of your soul.
I know. Yeah, that's exactly what he's doing, right? But I mean,
Amon's,
that is like...
He's doing it better than Bane, though. Bane's plan's just dumb.
No, Bane's plan makes sense for a 2.5 hour long movie.
I won't
Amon's
torture
plan
your
makes
body.
sense for a season of television.
I won't torture your body after I've broken your back. Look, a lot happened in the moment. I wasn't planning that. I was just gonna put you in the hole, but you
remember, those movies do not operate on literal reality. They operate in fantasy land.
Like if you would just stopped hitting me, we could have settled it a little easier.
Okay, look.
Have you heard James Adomian voicing Bane?
No.
James Adomian does the voice of Bane on the Harlequin show.
Oh, okay. Maybe I have then. I've seen 3 episodes of that.
It's pretty funny.
Okay.
It just gets angry and everything.
That's a good show.
I know, it's solid.
Yeah.
It's a lot better than I thought it would be.
Yeah, my first big scare was oh, they're just doing Deadpool with Harley Quinn.
Yeah, it looks like they were doing that, but she's actually, I like that both that and Birds of Prey are about her being I gotta get away from the fucking Joker.
Yeah, that's pretty good. But yeah, and then so Korra's just left there, and Tenzin shows up to kind of attempt to rescue her, but they're already gone. And so Korra just finally breaks down in Tenzin's arms and starts crying that she's terrified and she doesn't know what she's doing. Mm-hmm. And it's just a really sad moment. It totally reminds me of what the Last Airbender used to do when they would have these really tragic things like Appa being stolen and entire episodes devoted to just getting Aang to just cry. That's it. That's the culmination of a bunch of the best Avatar storytelling, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Where there's not a big plot revelation, there's not a big action sequence. There can be those things, but it's ultimately about characters coming to accept some harsh realities. And, Tenzin comforts her and tells her that the first step to getting over it is acknowledging that there's been this problem, and he's gonna help her through it. And what an ending! Fuck, it's 4 episodes in.
Yep.
The 4th episode of The Last Airbender, they were hanging out on Kyoshi Island. Mm-hmm. So, moving at a slight brisker pace here.
Yeah, different. That's nuts now that you mention that. Uh-huh. When you point out that's wow.
Yeah. So, that's the beauty of these shows. They're totally different. Mm-hmm. And they both offer, such radically different experiences, but still, give me that warm feeling in my tummy. I guess. I don't know. They're good. They're good shows.
They're good shows.
They make my brain happy.
They're good for kids. And for very, very sad adults.
Yes, like me.
Yes.
All right, Chapter 5, The Spirit of Competition. Everyone's favorite episode.
I already regret my notes.
Do you really?
Well, because I wrote the practice is very... there's, awkward humor going on. And Asami shows up with new uniforms. And then I wrote, no one will even know what I'm referencing when this comes out. But I wrote, Bolin being a real movie Bob here. Not taking hints. I apologize to the universe.
Yeah, well, a couple of us made that joke online already, so it's fine.
Yeah, I guess.
Shout out to Billy, who said... not mean enough.
That was, I don't know, that was, even for me, and I'm fucking, that was some wild shit to see go down online one night.
Yeah, but here's the thing.
3 dudes in a row, had crazy shit happen to them in that circle, and it was, wild.
But here's the thing about Bolin. Bolin does not believe in eugenics.
Yeah, here's the thing about Bolin, he doesn't have a YouTube channel.
I feel like you have a lot to say about this episode.
Yes, I do.
Why is it your favorite episode of the bunch?
I don't know if I said that.
No, I'm egging you on.
Well, all right. I think this is a controversial episode.
Yes.
Is it?
Yeah.
Everyone's wrong. This episode's great.
Okay.
This episode works perfectly fine. It does exactly what it's trying to do. I kind of just have to go through it because this is where it's the Bolin and Mako thing comes to a head because they're both pining after Korra, right? Mm-hmm. And Korra's definitely into Mako, but she's kind of Bolin's nice, but no, my man. She's dropping very not so subtle hints.
Yeah, she's just not into him.
She's just not into the guy. And Bolin and Mako have a conversation. Bolin's like, what do you think of Korra as in a girlfriend sort of way? And Mako fucking sucks, because this is what he says. She's great, but I think it makes more sense for me to go for Asami. But ultimately, the lesson here is these guys both suck. Bolin a little bit less, but I mentioned Movie Bob for a reason. Because that's what he could become. He's starting down that path if he doesn't get his head straight.
Well, here's my thing about this. It is much better than I remember also. Mm-hmm. I still do not know if I needed an entire episode devoted to it.
No, it's great.
I don't know.
It's perfect.
But
it's a perfect episode of television.
I don't know about that.
Wouldn't change a thing.
It is very entertaining, and I think what separates it from genuinely frustrating, pointless love triangles is that the writers are clearly aware that these are insecure teenagers who have trouble expressing themselves.
Well, here's the
it's
thing.
not the writing that has trouble expressing itself.
Here's the thing. The love triangle is dead by the end of the episode.
Yes.
It dies at the end. This isn't like, oh, this is going to be their dynamic for the rest of the series. They put it in a coffin and fucking throw it out to sea. Like, it's gone at the end. Now, there's some other shit that comes up later. But we'll get to that when we get to it.
And Bolin improves marginally.
Yeah.
By not having to egg Korra on, you know.
Here's the thing. I think this is where I want to bring up how you said that you think that the Mako Korra thing was inspired by shippers a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I think this episode is about I think it was. I think you're right, but I also think this episode is going why, and this is why that's a terrible idea. Because I really think that's what this episode's trying to say. Because then we immediately cut to fucking Korra's hanging out with Tenzin's girls, and they're trying to give her, romance advice. And the older one, gives her a fucking... She tells her, a story of a woman who threw herself into a volcano. And she's like, it was so romantic. And then the other girl's solution is a love potion. It's those are very childish ways to deal with love, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then Tenzin's wife rolls up and she gives even worse advice.
Thank you, Maria Bamford.
Just I just confessed my love. And this is why Korra's interesting, because she's in that pocket where it's between childhood where she still sees romance in that way of oh, destined for each other, we love and love eternal and all that stuff. And also adult of being just be honest and just say how you feel. It's she's got one foot in both worlds.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it's not going to work. And this is why no one marries their high school sweetheart. Except for that one friend, and that one friend's weird. So, God bless them, but it's strange. Because, this is the opposite where it's all the Team Avatar all met when they were children, Mm-hmm. The original. And it's oh, so they're just going to stay together the rest of their lives? Cool, I guess. And this is in the real world, especially in a world where, teenager kind of becomes more of a thing, which is teenager is actually a relatively new concept in the world. It's yeah, you're going to go through a lot of relationships before you find the one. And so I think that's what this episode's trying to do.
You've made me like this episode more than I ever have.
Yeah.
In my entire life.
Cowards.
No.
Surrounded by cowards.
I think it's a byproduct of the art and entertainment around this franchise more than the actual franchise itself, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's almost like I'm reacting to something that's not here. I'm reacting to things that I've experienced outside of Avatar.
I get where you're coming from.
Yeah. But I do want to say one of the greatest moments in the season also happens. I don't know how much you want to break down moment to moment, but I need to mention this. When Korra and Mako get all up in each other's business, and they're like, oh, well, I hate you, right? And then naturally they kiss, and then, off in the distance there is little Bolin. That is so fucking funny.
I know. Fucking Bolin, you idiot. Bolin seeing fucking... he sees Korra and Mako have a fight, and he's like, I'm gonna get the rebound. And he fucking... He gets... Because Mako does the adult thing for half a second. Which is... says, like, I really like you, but I'm with Asami right now. And so Korra's all heartbroken. And then Bolin's like, hey, we could go out. And then, you know, Korra's a little bit vulnerable in that moment. She's like, sure. And they have a fun time out on the town. And this is where I want to go and just punch Bolin and be like, just, you're friends. Be friends. This is a friendship, you know, outing. This isn't a date outing, really. Bolin can't take a fucking hint.
No. But I do like that he matures a lot real fast by the end of this.
Yeah. They run into some unfortunate folks, though. Was Tano and the Wolf Bats.
Oh, yeah. I had forgotten the Wolf Bat's name.
Voiced by...
I don't know this one.
Oh my god, you don't know it?
No.
Oh my god, what was the one you were shocked by?
Maria Bamford.
Oh no, it's fucking Rami Malek.
What?
Yeah.
Bohemian Rhapsody Teeth himself?
Yeah, Academy Award winning Rami Malek.
Oh, I hate him now.
Has an entire section on his Wikipedia page called Acting Style.
No, never mind. This is the worst episode of the franchise.
He's only in like 3 episodes, so...
Yeah. No, he is in 3 episodes. He's in 2 this season, and he gets a cameo later, which is speechless, but yeah.
Also, he sucks.
Also, he sucks, yeah.
All the dudes suck in this show.
Kinda, yeah.
I think it's a very important lesson.
Mm-hmm. It's like Tenzin is like finally learning not to suck, and it's a different kind of suck.
Yeah.
The teenage guys are all just little shitheads.
Yeah, and then Mako shows up at the end of this and he's like, what kind of game are you playing at Korra? Which is like, what a dick.
Yeah.
And that's when they kiss, and then Bolin cries. Oh no, they don't kiss yet. They have a game before that, and they kind of fuck up, and then they kiss. And the kiss is a little later because Mako's such a fucking tool. And Mako might be my favorite character because he just sucks so hard.
I have never heard someone say that about this show.
I like characters that like suck.
No, I do too, but I wouldn't say that.
I like Janice Soprano might be my favorite Sopranos character.
Oh, I get that, yeah.
Because she's always got some stupid scheme, and she's always causing problems, and she's like the worst. She pushed Joey Pants down the stairs in that one episode.
I don't know if it's a basic choice, but Korra is my favorite. It's like Korra and Zuko are my favorite Avatar characters, like by a lot.
Yeah.
No, maybe not by a lot, but just like I like the conflicts within those characters a lot.
Yeah, Korra's a great character.
No.
I feel like, I don't know, I'm probably lying when I say Mako's my favorite. I just got such a kick out of how much he sucked. Like I really thought like my notes were like, I wrote Mako sucks, but like I meant it in earnest. Like I meant I didn't like him when I wrote it. Mm-hmm. But I thought it came later that him being a dick like became enjoyable. Like I thought they didn't figure that out till season 2, but I'm like, no, they were on the money in season 1. Mm-hmm. But I honestly don't know how much I'm talking in hindsight, because like knowing how it ends, it makes you read the whole beginning like completely differently.
Yeah.
And I don't.
It's like Mako sucks with like a little heart next to it.
Yeah, I don't know how much was intentional. You know.
Yeah. Well, not to get into the whole thing, but this season was initially produced to be a standalone thing, and then they got the green light for 2 seasons, and then they got 52 episodes, and this was all during the first season's production. So the first season's production was like a mess because of it, because they were like, okay, we have to stretch this out. No, we have to reshape this arc. We have to it went through like a lot of work, basically. So I couldn't tell you like what went where initially or like what
I
the
don't know
plan
either,
was.
but it works for me. Like I don't know. I just it worked. It just works. Todd Howard. And yeah, then like they all self-destruct. They almost lose the game because they're fucked up in the head. Because they all got drama going on. Which I mean, again, they're teenagers. We all kind of went through something like this.
Yeah.
In high school, if like maybe we weren't the center of it, but we always had to deal with friends who were like in the middle of shit. Like I had that a lot. Where it's like, this group's arguing with this group now, and now I'm being judged if I don't immediately join one side. That was fun. Remember high school?
Oh boy, do I. But no, and then by the end they're all friends again. But they don't, except for Bolin and Korra. Like everyone settles the beef with Bolin. Mako and Korra don't really settle it. Like they do, but like the air of like what's like transpired already, like definitely sticks around with them too.
I think what sticks around is, Asami, I kissed your boyfriend.
Yeah.
That would be a moral conflict.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know. That's a difficult move. That's a difficult thing to navigate. But Korra does finally say something nice to Asami.
Yeah.
That's a good way to end the episode.
Yeah. And then chapter 6, and the winner is, this is the big Bane moment where they just attack the stadium. But a couple things before that, the Probending arena, the council of Republic City decides not to cancel the championship, even though Amon has like threatened to make a statement there, basically.
Yeah, he's like, I'm gonna fucking attack the stadium. And they're like, I don't know, should we do it?
And so, this just makes me think initially right now, like, I was complaining about how, like, or I was saying that, like, it'd be nice if these kind of shows, like, directly attacked at capitalism. This might be the first, like, indictment of it, because it's like, well, we can't close the arena. Like,
yeah. Well, I mean, to be fair, they were all kind of like, no, we're gonna close it. Like, we're gonna do it. But then it turns into the problem where they're like, hey man, a lot of people's careers are tied up in this, which is a reason why capitalism sucks.
Yeah.
But then Lin Beifong's like, we do not negotiate with terrorists. And which, hey.
Everyone remember that spiel?
Remember when that was a thing? Remember when that was the thing? Wait a minute, but did Al-Qaeda ever try to negotiate?
No.
What sort of stance is that?
It makes the people in power look good. That's all that was.
Yeah. I mean,
like,
well, yeah, you're either with us or you're with the terrorists.
Yeah, that's kind of what it is.
Remember the Axis of Evil?
That's a Puppet Master subtitle.
Yeah, but it was like Axis of Evil. Iraq, Iran, and North Korea. And it's like, these countries don't like each other.
Yeah, but it sounds good.
Historically, Iraq and Iran don't like each other. To the point where if we removed the leadership of Iraq, it would actually be bad if we also had a problem with Iran. Anyone think this through?
Anyways, this is an action-heavy episode, and it's terrific. It's I don't know. I don't really have a lot here. It's just Amon makes a big attack on basically, like, he upends like the kind of like home roots Korra has established in Republic City, with her like public life. Rami Malek loses his bending, yes.
Even though the game was rigged in his favor.
Yeah.
Well, it's also like, and then Amon's come out, he's like, did you see these cheaters? Like, Amon sucks. Amon, like, actually sucks. Like, he's not, like, fun sucks. Like, he sucks.
Well, no, he's scary.
He's scary. No, he's a good villain.
Yeah.
The villain is supposed to suck.
Yeah.
But it's, like, also, he sucks. But this is also where this episode is where we get confirmed that Tenzin and Lin had a relationship at one point. That's it. That's in the opening of the episode.
Mm-hmm.
Which is important because that comes up a lot. And it's like we get these weird details of like, part of the reason why that relationship didn't work is because there was so much pressure on him to have airbender children.
Yeah.
That's why he marries a non-bender. Like, that's fucked up.
It is a little fucked up, and especially makes the revelation by Pema in the previous episode a little weirder too.
Yeah. Also, but there's that moment where Tenzin starts going on about like, we were just drifting apart, things happened. And he's like, wait, why am I telling you this? Which is just a great moment. I do feel like this show is kind of like, it's poking fun at Avatar: The Last Airbender a little bit, because that would have really led into a story, And here it's like, we're not doing that. Like, they're really going out of the way to be like, we're not doing Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Yeah.
This is Legend of Korra.
Yeah. Oh, and Korra and Chief Lin Beifong get to team up for a little bit for the first time. It's the first time these characters kind of just like work together in tandem.
Yeah.
And like it's kind of funny because they're both very strong-headed women and obviously respond more to violence initially than like actual like sharing of emotions. So naturally, them tag team in an action sequence is how they start connecting with each other.
Yes.
Yeah, and the action is just like spectacular. I don't really have any notes about it. It's really impressive stuff.
It's really fun. I think Korra definitely killed a guy.
Yeah. She's not an airbender like Tenzin or Aang, so she's like, I will fuck you up.
Like, throws a guy, and we see his body land, and like that guy is dead. So, but hey, Korra goes by the beat of a different drum.
Yeah. She doesn't have an entire like nation's upbringing to uphold.
Yeah.
So she gets a little more leeway.
So murder is fine now.
Which I would argue is a point of the arc of the series and her character specifically.
It might actually be.
Yep. Mm-hmm. But we'll get there. And,
so at the end of the end of the episode, they say Republic City is at war.
Dun dun dun.
Dun,
and
dun, dun.
Yeah, it's The Dark Knight Rises. That's it really teed us up for that summer.
Precious Armory. That didn't happen.
No.
Actually, it kind of does, but it hasn't happened yet. Yeah. I mean, that's the other thing about why there's like some weird stuff around Asami, because like you kind of wonder if she's gonna be like a third act villain reveal, Because there's definitely, if you're reading between the lines, there's definitely some evidence pointing towards her.
But we'll have to talk about that next time.
Yeah.
When we're talking about the back half of Book 1, Air. And we'll see how Korra manages airbending, because we kind of got sidetracked a little bit with that in the series. And I would argue that was intentional. But again, we'll talk about that next time. Matt, where can the people find you?
I'm at EmperorOTN1 at Twitter.com.
And you could follow me at the Diego Crespo. Check out the Waffle Press on Twitter, YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify, iTunes, and Patreon, where you can check out other episodes of Book 1 and hopefully Book 2 by the time this is out.
Also,
if not,
access to the 3-hour recording of this episode.
I will, you know what? Yeah, I'll upload the full 3-hour version of this, which is somehow longer than the last Airbender finale episode, which is fucking insane.
Wait a minute, that's longer than these 6 episodes combined.
Oh my god.
We did it!
No.
We did it!
No. Like and subscribe. If you didn't like this episode, like and subscribe anyways, because you might find something you do like. So thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We have been professionally unprofessional.